we may have to get in a fight with these guys. I'm like, dude, I got kids at home. Yeah.
But I can't get out of my garage because the boxes are so high.
Right. Because then when I fought normal human, I'm like, this is easy. I got to fight Liam later. That's right. That's something I definitely would have said with the foot out the window. Joey, Nikki, Tony, Petey, and Sal.
Welcome back. I got a very surprised guest today, a long time friend. I'm going to let him introduce himself in a minute, but I'm going to talk a little bit about him. Me and Vinny know each other probably, I don't know, a good 40 years, right?
Yeah, at least
40 years, which is bizarre.
It is.
Vinny is he has no longer lived here in New York. He was lucky enough to get out a little ways ago. 20 plus years ago you're out of here? Or maybe not that long.
7 years.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Seems like
7.
forever. But he is a retired fireman, retired New York police officer, and decided that he was done trading his time for money.
Yeah.
And he decided to take on being an entrepreneur, which went from working 40 hours a week to 400 hours a week.
That's true.
But I'm super excited that you were able to. He had a physical that he had to come up to do, and I'm lucky enough to have him in here with me today. So I figured let's shoot the shit a little.
Absolutely. My pleasure, my brother.
Yeah, my pleasure as well.
I think it started in the mid-'70s, the wiffle ball leagues we had.
That's right.
Very early on. And I think the dream in life for so many people is to actually, maintain that lifestyle of playing wiffle ball whenever we want.
That's a dream.
Right, when you think about it, right? Why would you want to change that? So that I think was one of my driving forces to get
Unless
involved
you're
in
playing
business.
against Richie Lamb, he cheated a lot.
Yeah, and listen, there's a lot of things he did. Well, when we used to box, we used to pair off, and I was very fortunate to have him as an opponent.
Always,
Yeah.
you were the next oldest kid.
I'd run through a lot of the guys,
Yeah.
and then but I got good at it because of fighting Richie.
That's it.
Because then when I fought normal human, I'm like, this is easy. I got to fight Liam later.
Yeah, that's true. But we were just talking about people that we haven't seen in forever.
Yeah.
Their names, and it really brings back a ton of memories. As you know, I live in the area that we both grew up in as kids, so it's whether it's my morning walk or taking the kids around the block or even down to Ralph's Ices. It's great to be able to walk past people's houses, and my kids don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'm happy.
So many memories though. Like it's bizarre. It's like nostalgic when I come back. Because I've been away 7 years, and I moved away 7 years, right? And so, but it's bizarre to look. And I'm driving even off Victory Boulevard. So many houses after so many years in Staten Island. You spent so much time in different houses, different homes, different blocks, and it's an odd feeling, And I love Staten Island. I'm a through and through New Yorker. It's funny because down south they ask. Are you from New York? I'm like, well, what part gave it away?
Yeah,
what was it? And then they say, well, what's your name? I'm like, Vinny, how you doing? But down south, they call me Todd Wilkinson.
Is that what your name
It's
is?
Italian for extra special. Yeah. So,
I'm sure they enjoy you down there.
Oh, it's great. It's good. We're in a bubble. I wanted to move my family out there. After I retired from the fire department, it was either, we do what most people do. We go down to Manalapan, New Jersey. Then I went down there. I was like, everyone from Staten Island's already here. So we started looking out in the Carolinas. I was spending a lot of time on Zillow at night, just and all these different places to look at homes down there. And finally, I said, we got to go do it. We had that conversation earlier, right? Yeah. We just got to go and look. Otherwise, I'm going to spend my life on the internet looking at houses and schools and crime stats and all these different things. It says that was it. But so that was 7 years ago we moved.
Yeah, so that's interesting because a lot of people now, who's retiring, who's just sick and tired of being sick and tired, they're all making that move down there, and that's, pretty good advice for people to sometimes you just, have to jump in the car or you have to jump on a plane and just go look at it, right?
You know what it is? We all, I guess it's the whole system that we're, somewhat indoctrinated into. You do the same mundane thing over and over and over. You never really stop to take action or do anything in it. And before you even do that, you've got to put it out there. You've got to visualize it. You have to have a vision board. It's funny, real quick funny story was because it's what we wanted to do. So when you want to do something, you put up photos and different things, and you start talking about it, writing about it, and you have to make it real. So we did that. I had the dream board in the back and the vision board in the back, and then we had moved down because we started going. We looked at 75 different homes and every little thing about each home. It's funny, 2 things I said are non-negotiable. We have to either have a basement or a third floor. So, we have neither.
I was going to say,
anyway,
Florida doesn't have any basement.
Right, we have a flat yard, but anyway, so what we did was we put the vision up there, we put the houses up there, and all the different things up there. And then after we moved, we came back, and one of my wife's friends, another Jen, which is odd, a Jen on Staten Island, another Jen says, "Hey, do you have a picture board? Do you have a new picture board in your new house?" I said, "Picture board? What do you mean a picture board?" "You know, the picture that you had in your house with all the..." I said, "That's a vision board." So you need to create a vision. If you don't take a vision and design your life and create your future, you're never going to take action. So she slaps her husband and says, "We got to get a picture board." I said, "It's a vision board." So, listen, we had to do it. You know, it was a thing, and looking back now, and again, I love Staten Island. I really do. I love New York. I'm through and through. But I look back, it's the best movie we ever made. And another thing, too, we did was this, and I was speaking to one of my sons about it, was you've got to write down a list of why should we stay in Staten Island. And there was a big list. You know, a lot of friends, everywhere we go, we know somebody, the food, all the things. Our lives are here. And we wrote down all the reasons why to stay in Staten Island. Then we wrote down a list of all the reasons why to leave Staten Island. And it's a tough thing to do too. Then we wrote on a list why to not go move to where we moved. Why, you know, and try to find all the flaws in it. And then why should we? And when you have those all in front of you, you look at everything, it jumps off the paper at you. It becomes obvious to make the right decision, because making a decision is a hard thing to do, especially a decision to, you know, uproot your family and move them so far. A lot of us dream about it or think about it. We say we're going to do it, or we should do it. And like anything in life, and we never really get around to doing it. So, you know, you create the vision, and then it stirs up that inspiration to speak about it, and then you go take the action and you do it.
Yeah, because, you know, there's so many people that I'm talking to now that are saying, "Oh, I got 2 more years, I got 3 more years, I got 6 more years." You know, everybody wants to do it, but I'm just curious when that time comes, you know, if they actually make that leap. And, you know, I admire you for it, especially having, you know, young children. I have 2 young children as well. You know, I'm obviously looking to relocate out of this state, you know, sooner than later. But that's something that you have to take into consideration, right?
Yeah.
School systems,
Everything.
how they're going to adapt.
Yeah.
You know, I guess you don't want to wait too long, because my daughter's 11, right? I don't want her to be 16 and then resent me for the rest of my life that I took her away from all her friends. But I think that more and more, they said, you know, a couple of years ago, Mario Cuomo was the what's his name? What's the son's name?
The other one.
The other one.
Yeah.
He got Realtor of the Year in Florida.
Oh yeah, that's right. I heard that. Yeah, he did, because everyone wants to leave.
Yeah, everybody left. You know, and
It's a crazy state. It's becoming. This has become an insane, and it's everywhere too. But it's become, and even the schools too, because you look at the schools, say we've got to get the good schooling system. You know, you may end up in private schools anyway, because the public education system is, you know,
It's
like what they're promoting. It's crazy. Hey, you know, they want to, you know, the whole thing with the drag queens. It's like, let's applaud this guy. Take your ass out, put it in this kid's face.
Yeah.
And they're like they're cheering it on. It's insane, bro.
You know, we had this talk the other day with my kids, and you know, I don't, whatever side of the fence you're on. That's fine with me. But you know, my 9-year-old comes home and tells me that, you know, there's a boy in the girls' bathroom and there's a girl in the boys' bathroom. I just think at 9 years old, that's not what we're supposed to be teaching our kids. You know, I just don't.
Not even close.
I don't find any value in it. Not that I'm against whatever you feel like doing with your private or personal life, but I just think that at 9 years old, children are supposed to be children, and they're supposed to, you know, enjoy.
Yeah. A side of offense is one thing, and you know, a preference is another thing. But when you have a grown man in a bathroom with a young girl, I don't care what it is. That's
Right.
basically criminal. So, you know.
It was when you were a cop.
You know, growing up in Staten Island, it's a culture, right? And my parents figured out, like, you know, because I negotiated my way out of PS8. Like, my thing was, like, I just could not sit still in class. I'm like, I don't really give a crap about what you're telling me. I don't give a shit about Saturn or anything. So you know, that they knew early on that I wasn't going to be an engineer. That was out, right? And so it was, you know, go to school, get good grades, or try to get the good grades, but get a safe, secure job with a pension and benefit. That's the thing.
That was the mantra back then,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. So I took all the city tests. I took sanitation and corrections and court officer, NYPD, FDNY. I took them all, and PD called me first. You know, so it's funny because I, like, lying to my dad. I remember making me. He said, "You got to take it." I said, "I don't want to be a cop," but I was lying. Deep down, it was interesting to me, and to do something, you know. So I became a cop at 20.
Wow. Oh,
yeah, I was 20 years old.
You were a baby.
Yeah, I was a baby. And I looked younger than I was then.
Yeah,
I looked like I was 15 years old out there. And I went right into the ghetto. And I was like, this is fun. Like, you know, I can stay out late now. And so it was a great, an amazing experience. You know, as a young cop, it's funny because as a young cop, you like being in the ghetto. You like what the action is.
Sure.
And as you get a little older, and then once you have children, you're like, this is dangerous. I got to get the hell out of here. I mean, I was a fireman once I had the kids, but...
That's a funny story. I don't want to interrupt you, but I just want to
Yeah.
get this thought out. You know, I remember you telling me probably, 20-something years ago. I said, Vin, why don't you work here? Like, why don't you work in the 123? Why don't you work in the 122?
Right.
And you said, because I don't want to pull over some kid with his foot out the window
Yes.
telling me how his uncle and his father and his brother are the captain of police on Staten Island.
That's right. That's right. That's something I definitely would have said with the foot out the window. Joey, Nicky, Tony, Petey, and Sal are my uncles.
Yeah.
No, there's
So
no
when
way.
I arrest somebody out there, nobody knows anything.
No one knows anything.
I arrest you, and that's it. I do my job.
I loved the ghetto. It was a great place to work. And, you know, it's funny, too, because they speak about danger as a police. And there is, of course, there's inherent danger. The thing is, the real danger is the hypocrisy of the government and the hypocrisy of, we see what's happened. I don't have to get to delve too deep, but you really couldn't do your job, you know? And, like, the hardcore criminals, they were my most fun to play with. Because they got it. They were cool about
Right.
it. You know, they knew we were playing cops and robbers.
Right.
You got me. They didn't always go willingly,
No.
but they were cool, you know. And I had
Understood the game.
that was, and I tell you another thing. Some of the greatest people I've ever met are basically they're stuck in there and from the ghetto. Greatest people, the nicest people ever. So
They're just stuck in that ecosystem. That's what they were taught. And
Yeah.
that's how they got brought up. And this is a way of life for them. You
Yeah.
know, it's definitely had to be an interesting job, especially early when you were actually able to police. Today, I have a few guys that live around us that are police officers, and it's just very difficult for them to do their job.
yeah,
And I feel horrible for them. You see
Yeah.
these videos of people spitting at you, throwing water at you,
Right.
cursing at and they're just sitting there like deers in a headlight, and I just don't get it. Obviously, I've never been on either side of that, so I don't really know how much to bring to the conversation. But it just something just doesn't seem right.
it's dirty now, and it's like the criminals are backed by society, and it's just a real thankless. And it always has been, but that's all. And the danger and the crime, I think, was even greater when I got started as far as the crime stats. I mean, they're coming up now a lot in New York and every major city. But at least you were able to police and handle everything's like on video now. It's just it's just and anything. I mean, I had a lot of friends who became firemen, and it seemed like they were always off. You talk to my friends, they were always off. What are you doing? I'm off for 3 weeks. I'm in a mutual pool. I'm off. I was like, I want to be off. I want to be off.
Actually, what made you flip?
Well, it's all about time. Everything from business and everything else. It's about. It's again. It is about wiffle ball, and the reason I say that is because I've been asked that over the years. What's your why? What's your reason? Or how can you become unstoppable in business and anything? It's wiffle ball. It's your desire to be really honestly free. And as kids, we were free. So I saw an opportunity with the fire department to not only have a cleaner life, because the police department's a very dirty job. And what I mean by dirty, I mean it's just the dirty environment, just everything, handling criminals all day and everything else. I was doing prisoner transports, which was a lot of fun. Now that was a podcast. Now that was a show. But that being said, I wanted to work 24-hour tours. I wanted to be off 3 or 4 days a week. And that was my driving. That was my number one thing. And I did that. I rolled over, and it really is. They call it the greatest job in the world, FDNY. And I just got back from medicals. It really is. The camaraderie there was great. It's funny, when I got on the job, FD, I had no idea how to cook. I honestly didn't know the difference between an onion and garlic. I really didn't know the difference because I was mama's boy. My mother cooked for me and did everything for me, and I'm grateful, rest in peace. And then when I got married, my wife does everything for me. So I still to this day,
Still
right?
grateful.
Still very grateful. And that being said, I just became interested in cooking. So my mother would give me these meals, and I'd start cooking at the firehouse, and it became a thing. So now I can instantly whip up a meal for 10, 15 people easily, So, but
No, I got this.
and I enjoy it, And so that was a really fun job. It was a very different thing. So the police department, when you're in the station house, you have to get out. It's like, what are you doing here? Get out. Get out. And the fire department, you can't leave until you get called, right? And a big difference is people's perception of you. So, I would get out on the street, and even in the ghetto, they would say like, "Yo, we like FD. You ain't like them cops." I was like, "Well, I was 2 months ago. It's a different color uniform I have. You don't really." So, are you judging me by my job, my color of my uniform? But anyway, it was everyone seems to love the firemen and the fire department, and I can understand why you look like they're perceived as heroes, but. Everyone and anyone, I think, we spoke about this, about helping people, putting people first, and that's what gives people, you don't need a job title for this. If you've ever stopped and you see someone with a flat tire and you help them, absolutely, you get a great feeling. That's really, in essence, to the core of the human is what we want to do, is really help other people. It's just complete polar opposites in jobs. And
that's kind of what propelled you for your next stage in your career, right? Of different businesses that you've owned, was really trying to create financial freedom for others. Obviously, you being along in that equation.
Yeah.
But I think that we've spoke about that, a lot of times, that everybody has an issue, right? Everybody goes through something in life, and if you can be that one little, bright star in that person's day. Could be a sentence that you said, could be 5 minutes that you spent on the telephone with them, could have been just saying hello to somebody, right? That could actually really change the projection of their day. So talk about what you're doing now, because
Well, yeah, that's great. It's always this thing. Like, it's funny too, because we met each other again in life in the mortgage business.
Yes.
Because I had this funny too. I was just telling this before. Is when I was a fireman. Then we got married. I became a fireman. A year later, we got married, and a year and a half after that, my wife got pregnant, and then again and again and again, and she's like fertile myrtle. It was all of a sudden. It's like everyone's like, "Hey, congratulations for your new kid." I'm like, I couldn't pull out in time.
Really?
It's terrible.
They didn't have condoms?
No, I always used them. And then all of a sudden I stopped. And then we started having babies constantly. But you notice I put the year and a half in there because it was all it was on. The timing was right.
What are the ages?
They're now 19, 17, 16, and 13.
Woo.
At one point we had three babies under 3, and people said, "Well, what about the diapers?" I'm like, the diapers I can handle. I don't mind poops. If we can get into some poop stories I have too. There's another one. But it was the sippy cups that were a pain in the ass.
Oh my God, cleaning those.
The worst. And so by the time we had the 4th kid, we're like, make your own lunch.
And these bottles are made by scientists today. They got straws with take air out of it.
And we had every little thing.
Yeah,
and it actually this leads into why I got started at the business too, because we had to have every little thing. We got now we had a mortgage, then we got a second mortgage because the free money of the HELOC back in the day.
Oh, absolutely.
And I says, "Oh man, I gotta." And actually, it was a little bit before that. My brother says, "Why don't you get into mortgages?" Now I was still living at home. I'm like, I heard of that. What's a mortgage? What is that? I had no, because I was always prior to that into having fun, right? So I says, all right, I'll get into it. And then I went. I met the friends of ours we were talking about that I knew growing up. And my friend's mother, who I knew was a friend of mine, she was the branch manager of a bank. And I went to that bank, and I says, I made an appointment to see her, and she's like, she started speaking the language of the mortgage, HELOC, LTV, debt to income ratio. I was like, yeah, no, I know, I get it, I had no clue. I didn't know what LTV was. And so I get there, and what's funny was they were all kind of like gangsters that were working there. At the time, this is back, and great guys. Loved hanging out with them. It was another show we could have had. But anyway, it was in late 2003, and all of a sudden, like I got the job. It wasn't even a job. You just show up. It was
refi boom stuff.
Sales call, and I just started, and I learned from making mistakes in that because no one was going to help me. The processor was always angry, and so no one was helping me. And I had to figure it out myself.
Oh wait, 05 you started?
I started 03.
Oh, 03.
Yeah.
So you were still catching a little bit of the good market before it started.
Well, 04, 5, 6 was really good. Yeah,
right.
We crushed it. I was making 6 figures in that industry
as a side gig.
As a side gig.
Right.
So, but the reason I started doing it, it's funny because when I was a single cop, I didn't make much money, but I was loaded. I always had a ton of money in my pocket. Then I was making,
single.
Single. Then I was making, 6 figures on the side of the fire department, and we were broke. But why? And I think everyone can identify. A lot of people can identify this, and this is something we can't speak about. Money's the root of all evil. Don't speak about this. We'll just work our whole life for it to pay all the shit.
Said that was broke.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the indoctrination.
Right.
And so I got a mortgage, a second mortgage. Then I had to get 2 car payments. I don't call them getting them cars. I got car payments.
Right.
Because, you can't put a baby in a used car. It has to be a new car.
Right.
All right, so I got a new car. We got 2 new car payments. Then we had these little plastic loan sharks. What are they called? Credit cards?
Loan sharks.
Yeah, the loan
Exactly.
sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one. I went to the sharks. And then so we started saying, well, then we got the new house and we started making it nice. Why don't we get that faucet? That one's $600. The other one's $100. No, let's get the one $600. Looks nice. Every little thing was like free money,
Yeah,
right?
sure. Just use the plastic.
Plus, if I get the HELOC as a backup,
Yeah,
I already have
just
that.
in case.
Just in case. And so I did what's happening next. So we got, baby furniture. Then we went to see Mickey Mouse. The kids have no clue. They don't remember any of it.
No.
They 10 times,
out
yeah.
the window back
Boom,
then.
every time. Boom, boom, boom. Birthdays. Everyone had a ball pit birthday and a week-long birthday. And then a birthday parent for the grandparents, right?
But how much? My birthday was in your basement with the weird paneling on the walls.
Right.
My
Yes.
mother made the
Yeah,
cake,
yes.
and you all came over.
On a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, Richie Lamb made
Yeah.
half the cake,
Yeah.
and then it was over.
Yeah, he ate the cake and then beat everyone up.
Right, and
Yeah.
then the party was over.
Yeah,
Like,
that was it.
What happened today? It's like everything's got to be this extravaganza.
We have to, and look, we're the Joneses too. We
Yeah.
did it too. We did
Absolutely.
it too. And so, but now with 4 kids, watch this. They all have, let's just say they all have 8 friends that we have to go to their birthday parties. And that's 32, 8 times 4, 32. That's 32 weekends of the 52 that I'm spending at ball pits.
Right.
I was at places, it was back to back. I was like, are you leaving? No, we got the next party coming up. We're going to that
We're
one too.
leaving early too.
Yeah.
So good.
And then we would sit with the other parents at these parties are getting so much. I know, yeah, well, I have my kids next week. You got to come to
Yeah.
what? And so I would, at night, like,
that was the trade-off too, right? It's like you knew it was coming to yours because you went to 32.
I was like, why don't we all, as adults, stop this madness? And so, you know what I'm saying? Why don't we, how about you don't have parties, I don't have parties, right? So,
We'll just call each other.
yeah, right. Let's do it Tuesday afternoon. Blow out the cakes, Johnny, and here you go, the candles. So I was stressing out, because I had too many bills, but we were happy. We were always laughing and happy, everything. But as the father of the home, and my wife was too. I'm saying, do we have to go to that kid's party tomorrow? Not just a party, every little thing. And so that's when I was approached with a leverage-based business from a buddy of mine. And it's funny too, because anytime someone pitches you about affiliate marketing or network marketing, you say the same thing. I go, my buddy calls me up, he pitches me over the phone about this company, right? This is in 2007. And he goes, he tells me, I said, well, what is it? He starts explaining, I go, is that like a pyramid? And I don't know why I said, because I've never said that before in my life. That's something that was implanted in my brain somewhere from the indoctrination. If someone comes up to you with an opportunity and a very low barrier of entry with a big upside potential, it's pyramid. Okay. So I said that to him, and I don't know why I said it. So he invited me to this meeting. And I did like what most friends do. I didn't show up.
I said I was going to go.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
And he calls me the next day. He's like, dude, you wanted to meet? Yeah, whatever. And there's another one tomorrow night. I says, okay, I'll go to that one. I didn't show up. Then I'm like, what? He's getting pissed at me. So I was telling my wife, she goes, just go to the meeting. In fact, she wanted me out of the house, right? So I go to this meeting for this pyramid party, right? And I go at the Staten Island Hotel. Was this one? We go there, and my buddy who invited me, yeah.
Sure.
He's got like a hair trigger temper, right? So we go to this meeting in Staten Island, this pyramid business, right? And there's literally almost a fight between the Italians and the Russians. I'm not even kidding you. And he's like, we may have to get a fight with these guys. I'm like, dude, I got kids at home. I'm in here with a button down from the mortgage, but I'm not fighting with it. What are you talking about? What is this? What are you going crazy?
Is this fight game that you invited me
Dude, and then so we go into the place. The guy that does the presentation, it wasn't even a presentation. Still to this day, the worst, I'm serious, the worst presentation I have ever heard. He opens the presentation. He's from New Jersey. He goes, I hate coming to Staten Island. This is his opening. I'm like, all right, this sounds like this could be funny. What's the punchline, right? I don't like paying a toll. I'm originally from the Bronx. You guys aren't real New Yorkers. Let me try to get this thing set up. And that was what he said. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on with
I'm
this
in the
thing?
fucking Twilight Zone
Yeah.
right now.
So anyway, they're talking about this business, and our friend gets up and goes, "Show me the money." Anyway, long story short, everyone left. So I mean, when did you ever go to a presentation and there was an argument with the people in the audience with the guy, and everyone left? So I said, I had heard the guy in front of the room made like $250,000 the previous year. So I says, I'm in. So that
I wasn't quite sure about all this fighting thing, but I'm intrigued by the 250.
I was intrigued by the concept of something. So it's funny too, because my wife goes, go to the meeting, but don't buy anything. So I went like a good husband and bought everything. And so I was like, all right. It's funny too, because so then I went home and I went on YouTube and I went on Google, and Google said the company's a scam. I'm like, yeah, but I went to the company website. It doesn't look like I didn't see a risk. Being a cop, I was in narcotics, I was a fireman. There's no risk of me spending $200 on these products, right? There's no risk. So I looked online and I started looking at the business model, and let me just tell you, that was it for me. It blew my mind. The concept of that business model is what blew my mind. I didn't know what I know now. We went and ended up taking that business to 7 figures, and it was like I had never made that kind of money, and that's what led me down the path of entrepreneurship. Because real quick story on that was, so there was another meeting, and now knowing how to invite me, now I'm going, right? So I found out there's a meeting in Raritan, New Jersey, and I told my buddy and some other friends who I says, we got to go to that meeting in Raritan. They're like, we're not going over there paying a toll. I'm like, what? I'm paying a toll. Now I'm at the bottom of this pyramid.
Right.
Like I'm under everybody, right? I says, I'm going. What do you? I said, I go. My wife, now I still hadn't told her that I got in, right? That's another funny.
I was going to say, I'd love to hear that story when you got home. What happened? Nothing?
No, yeah, well, I said it looked pretty good. And she goes, are you going to sell that stuff now? I said, no, just, why don't you just go to sleep? And I went on Google and found out, everyone's saying, all the red flags are up. It's a scam, it's this, right? So anyway, it turns out the company did like $970 million a year, a couple years later, right? A boom. It was a juggernaut company. But anyway, so I go to this meeting in New Jersey, right? And I go early, and the guy's still setting up the room, a different guy. And I was in the mortgage business. I just, I closed some loans. It was September of 07. In August of 07, I had made $16,000 in the mortgage business. A very good month, right? For a part-time gig.
Absolutely.
Great month. So I go and I tell the guy, I'm all proud, like the guy said, I says, well, I'm in the mortgage business and I made $16,000 last month. He goes, yeah, try making $9,000 a week. And he was a cop from Davie, Florida. That was my price to pay attention.
Yeah.
That was my price.
Right there.
And so then we went to Atlanta to this function, and people aren't going to Raritan, New Jersey. They're not going to Atlanta. So I went to this function in Atlanta, and we had to make a lot of sacrifices. We had, at the time, 3 babies, and we went to this function, and I thought it was going to be like a sales training thing, and it was all about personal development. It's all about leadership development and sales and communications and business education. And that's when I was introduced to Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, and his whole Rich Dad series of books, and I became immersed in the industry.
Isn't that bizarre? So many people don't want to take that shot because they're afraid to make that first step.
Yeah.
And then you actually make it and you realize how easy it was and how profound it was for the rest of your life.
It was a shift in my consciousness. It was a shift in, not to do it on the show, but the cash flow quadrant is the employees and small business owners and specialists think very different than the big business owner and investors. Very different. And they don't think like what I was taught, go to school, get a safe, secure job, a pension benefit. It's all about, reoccurring income, passive income, building assets and not liabilities. And when I say assets, cash flowing assets. And so, and it's funny because that type of language was very foreign. This was 15 years ago. Where now not having a side hustle is strange.
Right. Well, nobody had heard the word entrepreneur 15 years ago.
I couldn't spell it.
Right. I still can't.
No, a good entrepreneur can't spell entrepreneur.
Right, I can't spell it.
Because they know that that's unnecessary for you to learn that.
I think that, unfortunately, it's used in the wrong way as well today, right? I think that people today think that it's almost a scapegoat to not do anything, right? But to call yourself an entrepreneur,
right?
You work comes before success. Success comes before work only in the dictionary.
That's right.
So that's the only thing that I fear with that, because if I go on any social media platform, that's the first title that everybody has, right? It's like you can't tell me any businesses that you built and exited, but you're an entrepreneur,
right?
And I think that's you know, a lot to do with the people out there today, the Gary V's of the world who you know, have put entrepreneurship on the map. But I think that in a way, it gives people the ability to hide from actually doing the real work. And that's the part that, you know, I always try to explain to people, that action is a big part of it all, right? The vision boards and the planning and all that stuff is great. But if you don't have the action behind it, then what do you really have other than, you know, an idea, right?
Faith without works is dead. You have to have dirt under your fingernails. And the only thing that's going to drive you to do anything and create something is to have, you know, obviously the vision and the desire, all the little things. You know, it's easy to say I'm an entrepreneur, but then there's a lot of little components in any business. Even if you're an affiliate marketer and building someone else's company, there's a lot of work and components, because now you're in the people business.
Absolutely.
And now, like, leadership is a big component, and people behave differently. Not only people who are potential consumers or prospects or clients, they behave. So you have to understand that's where communication comes in, and how to communicate with different people. What's the love language of each individual? And you have to be able to lift up your language. You have to understand the language of an entrepreneur, of a business owner, and understand your audience. So a lot of these things come into play. And you know, action is probably the best coach out there. You know, you have to let action be your coach.
But we talked about that too from a perspective of learning, right? Neither one of us did very good in school. Neither of us really wanted to be in school. You know, I think today, quite honestly, that the school system is failing, you know, children today to make, you know, my kids believe that every 90 days they're going to get graded, and depending on what that grade is, that's what they are. And if they don't do it the next time, then there's even severe consequences, and so on and so on. That it actually, you know, conditions children today to think that, like, if I don't do this, this is going to happen, right? And it takes the free thinking away from them. It takes, you know, a lot of what we talk about, of, you know, reaching out of your comfort zone and trying to do something a little different away from them. Because it's almost that same mentality of, you know, your dad or my dad early on being like, you got to get that union job. You got to get that pension. Right. You got to get that. Because that's what the school system teaches you, right? They don't teach you financial literacy. Because if they did that, they might lose money on taxes.
Well, they wouldn't have teachers there.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. They wouldn't have teachers as well. Which, you know, I don't know, that's good or bad. You know, there's a lot of good teachers out there. I just think that the curriculums that they're forced to teach today don't necessarily lend to the development of people the way that it should. But now, come full circle, now I'm 50 years old and I thirst for knowledge, right? It's just such a weird thing. I always said that about God. He's got some sense of humor. He makes you get halfway through life before you figure it out, right? And I wish that I had the desire to learn the way I do today. 25 years ago, we would both be on, you know, 200-foot yachts by now.
Well, it's specialized knowledge too. It's what you're interested in. Like years ago, you can memorize baseball cards or music, whatever it may be, if you're interested in that. And yes, interestingly enough, I teach my kids the same thing, to get good grades in school and to get a safe, secure job with pension and benefits. I mean, anytime that's available, I think that's a great thing to do, because it's that it is security. You know, the security of a paycheck is a big deal. And I think we see a lot of that too in entrepreneurship now. People are calling a job just over broke, or, you know, fire your boss, or creating this culture like that, you know, having a job is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, and it teaches you a lot of good things. I think I was just listening to a podcast about, you know, if you work in retail, you're actually getting an education and you're getting paid for it, right? But, you know, sales is the number one paid profession in the world. Marketing now is something that you can do for free. Leveraging tools like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and all these different free platforms when you think about it.
Absolutely.
And having an opportunity to create leverage in your life that's really going to give you the freedom.
I just think that maybe I framed it up wrong. You know, I just feel that so many children today, or kids our age even, right? You watch your father work 40, 50 years, get that pension to drop dead 3 years later, right? So,
yes.
So they work for 40 to enjoy 3. You know, I think today, with these platforms that you talk about, with these marketing techniques that are out there, with the with direct-to-consumer marketing that is obviously taking over the world, I think kids know they have options today that 100%. Maybe we didn't have, right? You know, Grandpa, if he wanted to make more money, he had to get a second job.
Right.
If he wanted to make more money again, he had to get a third job, right? We're walking around with supercomputers in our pockets that, you know, and I tell people this all the time. Don't tell me what your 9 to 5 is. Tell me what your 7 to 10 is. 7 to 11. That's where the grind is. That's where the side hustle is, where I believe that's going to change the dynamics of education because, first of all, I think COVID kind of slowed everybody down, right? I think COVID kind of put everybody back inside their house, kind of made family time a little bit more appreciative than it's been in the past.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's always, on there. You go to a restaurant, you see, 70, 80% of the people, they're not even talking to each other. They're on their iPads. Which, listen, sometimes to me, if I want to enjoy a good meal, I have to give my 9-year-old an iPad because otherwise he's asking me the most ridiculous questions the whole entire time.
Right.
And I can't eat. But I do think that the youth today understand that they do have options, right? That they maybe instead of going and getting that $150 a year job that they know can provide a certain lifestyle for them, they might, opt to create content in their basement and make 80, right? And understand that maybe, I'm not saying that you should sit in your pajamas all day long and that's healthy, but maybe I can spend a lot more time with my family. I can, I can talk from my own perspective. I watched my father build a very lucrative business as a child, but I also watched my father miss a hell of a lot of baseball games. Never showed up in a baseball practice. If anything, he picked me up an hour late. I used to tell the coach all the time, Santy, what a great guy. Would be sitting on the trunk of his car like Bad News Bears, and Walter Matthau? Yeah, whatever his name is, Walter Matthau. He would look at me and go, "Do you think he's coming?" And I said to him, Santy, not for nothing, you could have drove me home and you would have been home by now.
Yeah.
By the time we sat here waiting. But I understood why he did it. He didn't do it because he didn't love me. He did it because he was trying to build a business. Right. It's not easy to it's lonely at the top, right?
Yeah.
You say that all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's you got to put the work in. So I do look back at that and say, yeah, maybe we missed out on some stuff that I make sure now, as a father of 2 kids that are heavily involved in sports, I do my best not to miss any of it.
Yeah, I see that too.
Because I think that's what life is about, right? It's like we're all gonna die and stuff this green paper inside of the box with us.
Yeah, no, it's creating memories because they last. So it's like, my wife says to me, she's going to a cousin's wedding in California. She goes, should the little guy go? I said, absolutely, take him with you, and so doesn't matter. I mean, cost of anything always plays a role, but you can't put a price on memories and creating things. You really can't. So she's like, should we go to the Yankee game in Atlanta? I said, yes. Like, whatever it is, yes, let's do it. But let's become better stewards. And what happened to go back was, in our first business, we made, for us, it was extraordinary amounts of money, multiple 5 figures a month, over and over again. But we weren't good stewards of our money. And so rather than attacking bad debt, we just got more steaks and pocketbooks, right? And vacations. And so,
which is very, very important, that lesson that people don't understand, right? Making money is one thing, holding on to it is a completely different thing.
Losing that business was a great learning experience. Back to failure, right? You have to fail. How can you can't learn without it, right? That's like saying I want to grow some muscles, but I don't want to sweat. And so, so what happened then was after that, because you have, there's a lot of like the Grant Cardones and the Ed Milet's, and then there's the Dave Ramsey's, right? So I applaud Dave Ramsey having like a Grant Cardone type of vision, right? That makes sense. But Dave Ramsey principles with our second business, and our second, then I also learned how to do the math with businesses. Like, back to the banking, I didn't know how to do the math, figure it out. So I was able to start reviewing business models and look what does the market want? What is the market willing to pay for? What's the price? And what's the acquisition retention, things like that are so important in business. So the second business we did, we built a team of an organization of 50,000 customers. But I didn't buy steaks.
Right.
I got rid of bad debt, attacked the bad debt. And so by doing that, we were able to, for me,
How
be
many
healthy.
years ago was that? Because I just have a question that I want to ask you.
That was I started that second business in 2011.
Okay, so that's 12 years ago, so you were still here.
Yeah.
Do you find that geographically, right, we spend more money based on where we live, whether it's keeping up with the Joneses or whether it's just the cost of living in general, or do you find that when you're down there, how many of your friends have Rolex watches and Mercedes Benzes?
Well, where I live?
Yeah.
Well, where I live, everyone's got bucks.
They do. Well,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
said that
yeah,
you're in
yeah.
a corporate
Yeah,
area.
yeah, yeah.
But I would just assume that there's
Outside of where, yeah.
there's less of that, right? There's
Well,
less of that
there's-
competition.
So where my brother lives, let's just say, because he's down in the south too, there's none of that. There's no Rolexes. There's no, nice. It's funny. We're conditioned to call them nice things, but there's none of that. There's no Joneses. There's no flashy things. There's no. But there's a balance there too. Do I want an Audi R8? Yes, but no. Is that practical? No.
Right.
But
For a week, I do.
yeah, for a week, I'll take
Right.
it, right? But, we do want, if I want to have a steak, I want a good steak. If I want a restaurant, so we want the good things. I want to make sure my wife has, and it's not about how much I'm paying for things. It's what is it that you want?
What joy does it bring her?
Certain things you make sacrifices on, right?
Sure.
And I think, the way I am, I don't really need much. That's just the way I am. Do I like a good steak? Yes. But, I think you've got to put in perspective, I'm a huge on bad debt and interest and borrowing money. And borrowing money is just the worst day of your life.
Root of all evil.
It really is. That's paying interest. And no one does the real math. And this is something I do trainings on. And part of the culture I have with my new business is all of those things and all of those principles, it's always have fun, embrace personal development, and build wealth. Wealth is measured in time, not money, right? So it's about, I'd rather make $5,000 a month in passive income that's sticky and with a 94% retention rate than $25,000 a month and have a 5% retention rate.
Right.
But it's also, so there's that component of it is creating a culture in where people are, like I said, embracing the personal development, but not spending beyond their means. And one of the things we teach now in business is with the side hustle culture. This is why I'm bullish on have a good job. And like you said, what do you do from 7 to 10? Have that side hustle. And it's either one or the other. You take the side hustle to pay you down bad debt and cover your liabilities and expenses so you can literally keep your job money. Like I said earlier, when I was a young cop, I had a lot of money in my pocket because I didn't have the expenses or liabilities. So it's about having that, and just, by doing that, you're able to lessen stress.
Right. But I think a big part of it also is enjoying what you do. I think too many people
key.
got forced into, a life of something that their parents wanted them to do, and they didn't necessarily have the wherewithal to stand up to them. Maybe they lived under their roof. Maybe they, felt a certain way. And I think that's another struggle today with people. It's just that, people are doing things that don't make them happy. Too many people are miserable in what they do every day, right? And that has a profound effect on their life, not just on their job. They bring that home to their wives. They bring that home to their children. That's where I try to come from a positive perspective, speaking to people from a motivational perspective of find something that you like to do. I understand the, you love what you do and you're never going to work one day in your life. Unfortunately, that's a small percentage of people from what I've seen in my life.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that by instituting the principles that you're talking about of Dave Ramsey and getting that debt down and understanding that, hey, if I can do this side hustle from 7 to 10, 7 to 11, putting together vision boards, putting together the work, right? You talked about stuff before, you joked around, but that's work, right? Making those lists of why I want to live here and why I don't want to live here. People don't do that because it's work. That's all. It's huge opportunity, but it's work. And I always say opportunity is dressed in overalls and it has paint all over it. It tries to sneak by you.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, you got to grab it and drag it into your house, but that's the work.
Yeah, really well put, Scott, is enjoying what you do. I think when you have hope, a lot of us live these quiet lives of desperation, and a lot of people become like an old shoe. We convince ourselves that, I love what I do, but I wouldn't do it for nothing. And, this is why it's designed to have the weekend and the sports and watch people, follow their dreams. And before you know it, your heroes, your sports heroes that were once older than you, they're now younger than you, So, the great Jim Rohn says, never let your birthday candles outnumber your accomplishments, right? And so having a side hustle and learning something, and you're a voracious reader and learner, and is learning something new. Learn, apply, learn, apply. When you get it done, then you teach. You invest, you learn, you teach. And when you're learning something, it creates hope. Like creating a vision board is doing just that, and then writing down lists, and then creating. It'll give you, it releases those things in your brain that give you hope. It's like when I was a young cop and I would drive in the Gowanus and I'd see the lotto, the one $1 in a dream thing, right? It would take me to a place and saying, what if, right? What if I won the lottery? What if that happened? And of course, what do we think? I'll pay off this friend's mortgage. That we always want to take care of other people first, right? But it brings you to a point of hope. The problem with that is it's not a tangible, it's not real.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you play the lottery, but if you keep playing the lottery, you're going to end up being disappointed, right? Unless
Right.
some freak.
Well, how many people won?
None.
So how many people play?
Everyone.
Exactly.
Many. And so, and honestly, I don't think any of my uber wealthy successful friends, they don't play.
And if they do, I'll tell you what happens.
Yeah.
Because it's $1 billion. Everyone's forced them into it.
I stopped and got a couple on $1 billion.
And they buy the ticket and they find it in their jacket 3 weeks later.
Yes, and then we got to check to see if the numbers were. So when I sit there, like, oh my god. So when you put something on from your brain to paper, now you're getting somewhere, right? Thomas Edison, they said not Edison, Henry Ford. He used to drive around, not drive around. He used to walk around. And he had an index card with what his goals were, and all day he was obsessed. He would stop everything, take out, look at what he was doing. Right? He didn't forget what he was looking to do. He didn't say, "What am I trying to do again?" Oh yeah, build a Model T, whatever it was. He programmed his subconscious mind. It's in the book Think and Grow Rich. And for your viewers, if you haven't read that book, it's a must-read in life for
Absolutely.
Leadership, communication,
Absolutely.
and we all go. You'll never hear it in school. Up until I was 37, 38 years old, I hadn't heard of that book. Grabbed that book, I'm like, this is, why wouldn't we want to read that? If they interviewed the 500 most successful people in history and have have to melt it down to the 13 principles that they do that stood the test of time, why wouldn't we want to know that?
And isn't that bizarre that when you read these books, that the stuff that Thomas Edison did and the stuff that Henry Ford did is still relevant today? This stuff doesn't change.
Have you ever read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill? If anyone reads that book, there's even a section of that book. If you're reading that or even listen to the audio, a certain area of that book, you think they're speaking about exactly what's going on in the world today, right now. And we're talking about political wins and social wins, all these different things. As crazy as it is in the world, it applies to everything that's happening right now because they're principles. They're not, guesses. They're principles, and these are fundamental principles, right? And so when you follow these things and kind of put it all together, like you said, it's work. Know what you want to do, because I'm driving back down to North Carolina, right? If I don't know where I'm going to end up somewhere else.
Right.
If you want to go from New York to Florida, and where you're driving to Disney,
You don't go west.
You don't go west. You don't say, let's take this road. You're gonna end up in Kentucky. You'll never get there. And and you would say, hey, Dad, why don't we drive over to Ohio? What are you talking about? Why would I even consider not getting off of I-95?
Right.
You wouldn't consider it. Why? Because you know where you're going. So it is where focus comes in, right? So if you have something very specific you're looking to achieve, you're not going to say, hey, take a look at this or take a look. You have to be singularly focused on what it is that you're looking to accomplish. And, that's when the goal setting and dates and things like that. You put this all together and then getting dirt on your fingernails and looking to fail.
Yeah, well, that's a question that I have for you, because I know a lot of people that I speak to struggle with doing multiple things, right? Everybody's going to be a jack of all trades, master of none, and it's the new thing, right? The guy that was a crypto specialist 3 years ago is now, a year ago, a marijuana specialist, and now is an AI specialist. Right. It's what advice do you give people from that perspective of focus because I've seen it too often that people jump from the new thing to the new thing to the new thing, and guess what? 6 months from now, there's going to be another new thing, right? And another new thing. And how are you able to stay in one lane? Because you kind of stay within that development, that growth development stage of I understand the businesses that you run are similar, but they're all kind of have a rewarding package to them to trying to help people better their lives through financial freedom.
That's the key is working on yourself, because you can control that. Whenever you're focused on becoming the best version of yourself, and I don't have that figured out, by the way. It's like a plane going to California, from New York. You're off course 99% of the way. But if you're aware of this, you hone yourself in constantly. And, as far as tying yourself to a specific niche, I think nowadays, rather than, and you can't say you're an entrepreneur or pretend to be an entrepreneur if you're following this and then following that. You've got to make one thing work first. And you've got to focus on making something work. But becoming the best version of yourself, you'll be able to, and how do I say, like from a financial perspective, and I told you this earlier, my main objective initially was creating passive income flow that surpasses my monthly obligations. This way, if I drop dead, God forbid, my financially, they don't miss a beat.
Right.
There's things like life insurance and 401ks and things like that. Those aren't passive income. Residual bills are happening whether we like it or not, or whether we like to talk about it or not.
Weird how that happens. They never lose your address. Right?
Never do.
Mortgage company, they're just always on top of it.
Right.
Even though other things happen in the world,
No,
catastrophes all over,
doesn't matter.
they know exactly.
It's like Goodfellas. F you, pay me.
Yeah.
Oh, place got struck by lightning. F you. It's coming. And we listen. Another thing we've all acquired. We've acquired new expenses. We've acquired Netflix. We've acquired more cell phones.
Sure.
We've acquired more subscriptions. So it's like, if you know what you want to do and become, you're going to, like, you have your fingers on the pulse of what's going on in the market right now, and being able to, start a podcast. I mean, everyone. I told you, I've been wanting to start a podcast for forever, and I just never did it. Right? It's about doing it and taking the actions. But as far as someone, because again, you could chase the marijuana, you could chase the CBD, the crypto, the NFTs, and the AI, and they all do play a role, because look, Cuban says it, right? You only have to be right once.
That's true.
So you could be right once, right?
Right.
So there is that. As long as you understand you're going to fail, there's a possibility to fail or fail big. I would say don't take too many risks. Don't borrow money. Don't borrow money against your house. Don't be willing to invest something in something with potentially short-term payback, with a big potential payback. Something that you're not willing to lose.
Right.
You have to work on your emotional intelligence, your EQ. Understand that you don't have all the answers. I mean, it's where humility comes from. A great book by Kevin Hall, Aspire is the origin of words. Learning about humility and soil and becoming the best soil yourself. So you can, if a seed's planted in you, it'll take a good root, right? So it's and again, like you're the same way. It's like when you see that, it goes back to that meeting I went to in Atlanta. I wanted it so bad, I was willing to do the things that I wasn't comfortable doing. Yeah, the work, the reading, reading 10 pages a day is a very mundane, easy thing to do. So is doing 100 push-ups a day or 50 push-ups. So is walking a mile. So is, but mastering the mundane is key. Day in and day out. There's a saying out there that successful people don't do things different. They don't do different things. They do things different.
Right.
They just do those little things that in the course of doing them don't seem like much of a difference.
And I think it's consistency, right? I think so many people, even from a health perspective, everybody's, wants to lose weight, gain weight, this weight, that weight. Nobody likes the way they look. That's why these Botox doctors are crushing it now, right? If you look it up right now, I think the number one sale of any online e-commerce business is weight loss for women over 30.
Yeah.
Right? So everybody struggles with that. And I think that I've always believed, and that I've struggled with, not that I struggled, but I've dabbled in different diets and different, techniques, and I don't believe any of them work. I think it all comes down, we talked earlier about the carnivore diet, right? Yeah,
right.
You can pack yourself with a ton of cholesterol and fat and see how that works for you.
Right.
And it might work for you, right? But I just think that it really comes down to consistency. And it's how it's doing the little things every single day. Right? It's selling 1 million apples for $1 opposed to selling 1 apple for $1 million.
Yes.
And I think that's the key to not only, longevity in health, but longevity in business and longevity in happiness is just, I have a saying, inch by inch, it's a cinch, by the yard, it's high.
Yeah.
And it's not my saying. Everybody thinks that all these little things I come up with them because you read, right? You read and you listen to people a lot smarter than you. You listen to 13 giants that have created one book that, you try to take one or two little pieces at them, right?
It's key. It's that little nugget, the little takeaway. It's funny in the gym, because I always loved to do push-ups and pull-ups and dips, and I don't know why, I just love that stuff. I think I was inspired by Rocky, and that's another thing about inspiration. I can sit here and tell you about this new movie Rocky that was out, and you're like, sounds good, maybe we'll see it. But if you saw it, you'd be on the floor doing push-ups, right? So people would say, how do you do so many push-ups? How do you do so many pull-ups? My answer is by doing a lot of push-ups. That's the only way to do it. I can read a book all day. Wow, that's a good technique in push-ups. But get on the floor.
You got to do your reps. Is what I would
do your reps.
Say.
If you don't put your reps in, you don't fail, and you don't have pain, and you don't love the struggle, embrace the struggle, and know what's going to happen. And there's going to be enormous disappointments. Your best friends, your parents, your best friends are going to tell you that'll never work. Those are the doubting Thomases, I guess. Those are the ones that are going to look to stop you. Are they doing it intentional? Sometimes. Some people, some friends are. They will. If you approach a friend with a business opportunity and they say it's not for me, I hope you do really well. They really don't hope you do well. It's not being that mean, but that's like saying, if you invested in a stock and you told me about it, and I said, nah, I'm going to take a pass. Do you think I'm gonna hope that it goes to like 10x's?
Right.
I'm gonna jump off a bridge.
You want that phone call?
No.
Later?
No, you don't want to say, oh, thank God.
Bought Apple at $5. You got in, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. No one's so, but you're gonna experience that, and this is where the comfort zone comes in. With a business, or like even when I was in the mortgage business, there was this thing called, I think they still have buy downs.
Now they have them even more because the rates are shooting.
Right. So there's these buy downs, and I remember, wow, I want to go out, and this is something I want to do. So I got a picture done, I got a flyer done, and I went out to builders, and I just walked up to them and started speaking to them. And you're going to get 9 or 19 out of 20. They're going to say, nah, I got a guy. But someone's going to say, you're my guy. They're going to like you. Whatever. Something you said got to them. Absolutely. And that's it. You remember my father, that he had his business. He made the white reindeer and the I don't know if you knew that. So my father, for years, he was a carpenter. And he also was sanitation, safe, secure job, pension benefits. But he made the wooden reindeers and the pumpkins that you put mums in, and the bridges and the windmills, all these things. Okay. Yeah. So he made all this stuff. I don't know if you remember, I had like the cow mailbox we had in front of me. So he made all this stuff by hand, made ducks. He was a craftsman. He's an artist, right? And so for years we're saying, Dad, you should sell this stuff. One day I'm fed up and I get his stuff. I put it in my car, right? I get, whatever. I got a pumpkin, I got a reindeer, I got some of his stuff that I put. And I just got there was no cell phone, nothing. I got my car and I went driving down Highland Boulevard, up Clove Road, down Victory, looking for nurseries, looking for flower stores. I went in and every single person said, we're not interested. We can't use it. Then I went into place on Richmond Avenue, across from the firehouse over there, right? Right after Victory.
Yep.
Right? Rocco's. And I went in there, and the old man says, nah, get the hell out of here. As I'm walking out, the son comes out. The son who is, more so my dad's age. What do you got there? And he goes, you know what? Leave them all out here, and if they sell, we'll buy more of them. I'm not kidding you. I got my car, drove back. I gave my phone number to my house, right? Got back. He called. He said, we sold them all. We need more. How many you got? So what happened was, I said to my father, we got a customer. He's going to buy all your stuff. It was like, how much do you want? All of it. And my father must have made cash business at the time. My dad, rest in peace. We just lost him a month and a half ago. Thanks. He hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash that he was able to. And that's that old school business model, though. That business model is really ineffective now. He cut off tips of his fingers. He couldn't hear from the store. But he did that. He hustled. Right? He was dressed in overalls. His hands were like sandpaper.
But let me ask you. I got to interrupt you because this is where I disagree. Is it not around anymore? Right? Because Dad today can create an ebook that teaches people how to do that. Right? Create a course. Charge $299 on how to create this flower pot.
Yes.
And there's people doing it. There's a company called Etsy. I don't know if you're familiar with them. I bought a 4 pieces of 1x6 that were glued together into a little box with a little hole in it, and it said have a drink on me or something, and you put your solo cups in there with the pen, and you took it out and you wrote your name on it, and the guy's selling them for $25. It doesn't cost him but 60 cents to make that thing if he's buying the wood in bulk. Today, I know wood might be but so is, you know, could your father still have operated today from a passive perspective with not having to use the tools?
Right, that's why the passive perspective. Yes,
right.
Yes. Well, that was the thing too. I says, you know, you're out here cutting your tips of your fingers off.
Right.
He was, you know, he was
That's
a character.
what I love about technology today. That 75-year-old man could actually have a side hustle in his basement, creating content for the world to see now, right? No longer do you have to drive up Victory Boulevard, go to Rocco's, get denied by 6 or 7 people. I can put content out there for millions of people to see. Now, are 95% of them going to say, I don't want your product? Yes. Well, but it's the 5% that do say yes. And that's why, like, I'm so enamored by, you know, direct to consumer, right? I'm so enamored by the fact that I don't have to any longer go to Walbaum's and buy toilet paper, right? I mean, I just think that there's certain things that you don't have to leave your house for anymore. There's so many products that you can buy directly from, you know, maybe not toilet paper from the perspective of Scott's, but you can buy materials direct from consumers now and cut out middlemen. And I think that is really revolutionizing e-commerce and how we buy things today.
Change the world. I mean, that's an understatement, actually. You can create a business around that and around anything that you love.
Right.
You have to have the hustle and get around people that like you that are making it happen. And so here's an example. So there's a new business model that just hit the marketplace where they took like network marketing and they got rid of all the shit that doesn't work. You know, what doesn't work in that industry is auto ship, business volume, overpriced products, and hype.
Auto ship doesn't work?
No.
That's a funny story because me and Vinny did get involved with something years and years ago, and you got cases of juice sent to your house, and you know, of course, I ran to my father and my brother and my sister and my aunt and my uncle, and you know, they all bought in because they were going to help out their nephew or their son or their whatever, even though that they probably weren't onto it. So one day I look on my sheet, my father, he disconnected. Yeah. And I called him up. I said, Dad, you know, what's the matter? You don't want to, all of a sudden you don't want to help me out? He said, listen to me. Whatever it is that they were taking from me, I'll give you double. Yeah. But I can't get out of my garage because the boxes are so high.
Right. I'll give you double.
I can't pull my car out of the garage. Stop sending me cases.
Yeah. No, I know.
That's why.
And you have to experience it to realize that model. And that was 15 years ago. Now it's completely antiquated. You know, to sell a product, first of all, it's overpriced. Here's why that's an overpriced product. Not just that product, but an MLM product, right? Is because if I'm paying $150, I can go to Amazon. If you're selling a product for $150 and I can go to Amazon and get something similar for $30 or $40, I can't run around town with a patent saying, mine's the best. No, I'm going to Amazon.
Absolutely.
Or now your father's got all those extra case of juice or whatever the product is, because it's all, you can go get that same exact product, that actual product on eBay for 50% off or 30 or 70% off. So that's a model, and we're talking about a $300 billion a year industry that pays out $125 million, I believe, a week in commissions, all right, to independent distributors. And so, but it's at a point like, where's their opportunity? That business is consistently going down. Now, if you could see that, you know, when people see something going down, they can put a put on it, or they can hedge it, or they can what do you call that when something's going down? Anyway, you can make money when the stock goes down.
Sure.
When that industry is going in the opposite direction, so there's shorting it, right? Yes. There's a new business model that took the one good thing about that MLM model is leverage, where you can have, you know, a business, you tell someone in New Jersey who knows someone in Florida, Canada, you know, Mexico, you have an international business with no inventory, no packaging, no shipping, no branding, no headaches of a traditional business you have, right? And so it's leverage. So that's a good thing. Only problem is the auto ship and all the other stuff. So now you got a business model that erased all that stuff and kept the leverage. They take affiliate marketing, which is a great business. I mean, Amazon's an affiliate, Target has an affiliate, Home Depot. Every big company understands the need to have an affiliate plan because nothing beats word of mouth.
Well, the very first affiliate program that I've ever seen come to play was the mortgage broker.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, before you started and before I started, you had to go right to the bank to get a mortgage.
Oh, I thought you meant like the loan officer
Well,
for
that's
the broker.
That's
right.
what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. So
right.
you had to go to the bank to get a mortgage. You had to go to Richmond County Savings Bank. You had to go to Staten Island. Those were the only two banks on Staten Island.
Right.
Maybe you had Citibank. Maybe you had Chase. But Dad and Mom had to get in the car and go there. And then somebody in the banking business decided, we only have one location on Staten Island.
Right.
We have to get everybody to drive to us. What if we created this thing called a mortgage broker, where we license them to go out and sell our product and just bring us back the money, and then we'll transfer the funds and
Right.
whatever. And now we have an office all over Staten Island. If we have 25 people out there, so that was the very first thing that I saw about leverage.
Great
Obviously,
example.
I'm in real estate, right? Real estate is a similar team process where the broker has a bunch of agents out there that they're working for the greater good of the company and leveraging,
Right.
each other for the one company. Teams are big today in real estate as well. Why? Because people understand that as one person, I can only do so much.
Right.
But 3 or 4 of us, now we're a team. 7 or 8 of us, now we're, a force. And I think that's where leverage, plays its biggest part.
Enormous. And you think about it too. It's like, so if you sell something, I won't pay you until you sell it. So and I'll give you a piece of it. So if you're going to make me $10, I'll give you 5. I want you to make millions, because I'll make millions. So that's a better model than the employee-employer model. It just is. That was always attractive to me about the mortgage industry and real estate, right? So when so many people get into real estate for the independence, and they can do so, and that is in essence, like you said, affiliate marketing. Perfect example, Scott. But now what affiliate marketing doesn't have, and we're seeing a lot of in the real estate industry, is leverage. This is what's creating things like these real estate companies that have like 7 levels to them, 8 levels to them, is because now you have the same opportunity for everyone. Like in the mortgage business, the brokers got more leverage than the loan officers. They don't have the leverage that the broker has, right? And so in the network marketing model, everyone is a CEO. Everyone has the same amount of leverage. You can make more money than anyone, than the person that brought you in.
And
So
I think that's the misnomer of that. When you want to go back to that first word that you used, pyramid.
the pyramid, yeah.
People think that because when we met in someone's basement and said everybody throw $25 in, and the lady and the husband in the front, they made all the money,
Right.
and me and you, got 2 people, we got our money back, and that was it.
And it fizzles, yeah.
And I think that's where I think people don't realize that if I work harder than you, and you've been a victim of it, and you've also, made people millions of dollars
Yeah.
doing it, where you can pass the person that brought you into the equation.
Not only can you pass them, but the person that you're passing is going to help you do it.
Right.
And so, it's like if you're the real estate.
If you're involved in a good company.
Yeah, and you're good in a good company. And that's, again, back to understanding business models. And this is why, like, this new model, once I looked at it, I said, wow, I'm stopping everything and I'm focusing on this. And so, again, they took the leverage and got rid of the auto ship and all the stuff that's antiquated, got rid of all the mullets, all the stuff that doesn't work anymore, right? And then added leverage to affiliate marketing. But here's the biggest part of it. They take both of those over here, but they took the subscription economy, the subscription model, and added that. So this company just added 122 paid members in under 90 days, right? And but if you look at Costco, 120 million customers with a 92% reorder rate, 92% retention.
Yeah, it's sticky.
Retention is key in business,
Absolutely.
no matter how you look at it, right? And so you look at Amazon Prime, you look at Dollar Shave Club, you look at BJ, you look at Netflix, you look at Hulu, you look at, you look at
It all
podcasts.
started with AOL. AOL conditioned us to pay a subscription.
And it's better, 80% of millennials prefer subscriptions. They're calling Generation Z's Generation Zero ownership. So it's like,
Great point.
becoming immersed in an industry and learning, you want to learn things about your industry outside of your industry. So like what's happening over there. So I'm like really interested in that stuff, like consumer behavior. I ask my wife all the time, because she's never involved in business with me. She always loves when there's a lot of money coming in. She always loved that part. But anyway, she doesn't do what I do. She would never jump out of the bushes and tell somebody, hey, look at this. So I'm just excited about it for the possibilities for the other person, right? Because when you see it happen, when you see someone who was living a life of quiet desperation and they just had no hope, and they see an opportunity for themselves, they're willing to do the work. They're willing to put in the time to work on themselves and become the person that
they truly know they can be.
They need to be. You're not gonna ever get paid further than your value. You've got to become the person that is worthy of the 7 figures, whatever it is you're looking for. And so, but when you see that happen, so I always ask my wife, what do you think of this product? What do you think of, like, how do you shop? Like, I want to know how she's an avid shopper, right? As far as, she what subscriptions, what things does she do? She does these boxes, like she'll get something with a gift. So it's consumer behavior. So I want to ask a consumer how they're behaving, instead of taking something and trying to really insert it into the market if it's already pushed out of the market. And I learned that from my first business. It's like the market doesn't care about your patent for your product.
Right.
The market doesn't give a shit.
Right.
They're gonna either discipline you or reward you. And so it's like, it's like martial arts. It's like you go with it. You have to have some wind at your back in order to achieve success, particularly in this very competitive world. And it's a small world, as big as it is, and as enormous as it is. It's a small world, and as windows of opportunity. And this is why, last thing I'll say too, before you maybe add to this, is you said something before about, you're not pigeonholed to one location. And so when you see a podcast or internet business or a side hustle that can pierce the economy of your own zip code, your own county, your city, your state, your country, that's leverage.
That's leverage.
And so, and people will consume content on their own time too.
And it seems like there's an equation of 1 + 1 = 3 with this, which I think that is a big part of it, because again, exponential growth, right? You get to a certain point where things just start to almost move on their own after a while. And I think that me owning a bagel store here on Staten Island, you're going to reach certain ceilings, right?
Yeah.
Just in terms of the bagel isn't going to last that long if I have to ship it to Idaho, right? You can flash freeze it, you can do all these different things, but it's not going to be the same product. Your product is identical regardless if I'm in Beijing or if I'm in Staten Island, New York.
And no one's driving from Idaho to Staten Island to get a bagel.
Right.
So, you don't have that. Although, and listen, that could be a very lucrative business. As we have good friends that have the best bagel stores in Staten Island, as we know. And they have good businesses. So they have good cash businesses and money making business. A lot of side hustles, people got to understand too. You're not going to get in a side hustle and then make a full-time living like in 90 days. No. It's not happening. It can it happen? Yeah, it can happen.
But that's to my point earlier, is the fact that the options that kids have today, yes, stay with the job that you have, stay with that security, but understand that if you do the work in the side hustle, plan B could actually become plan A, right? And that's the part that I was trying to drive home earlier. No, don't say school sucks and I'm never going to school again because now I heard Gary Vee says that I can go to yard sales and I can buy a glove and sell it for $5 more. Yes, you can do that.
Right.
But security, there's something to be said about if you want to live like a human being and possibly not have to eat out of garbage cans, you do need to have that security, and not many people have a tree in the back of their house that shits out money,
right,
or are fortunate enough to maybe have family that just is able to support them so they can go after their dreams and aspirations. Most of us have to have businesses that pay the bills, and now at our age, we're fortunate enough to put a lot of time into that regular job to now be able to look at ancillary opportunities that actually drive us in a different direction than what drove us 25 years ago. Because that's the other thing in life, right? What you liked 25 years ago, you might not necessarily love today,
right,
and vice versa, right? You definitely change in your ways.
It's, one of my big things, I just want to sit and hang out with my wife and hang, watch TV and do those things and then some people say, don't watch TV, it's going to make you broke. No, do what you want to do. And, but the thing too, with the side hustle, like they say in the beginning, you're grossly underpaid. And then if you work it the right way, you could be grossly overpaid, right? And so, but nothing can surpass the job income like a side hustle. You can't, like as a fireman, there was the glass ceiling. If I wanted more money, I had to give you more time. If I wanted more time, I had to get less
traded
money.
your time
And
in for money.
that's all it was. And the same thing if you're a doctor, it doesn't matter what you are. If you're trading your time or even your expertise for money. Like I was in the mortgage business, there was nothing residual about it. I know I would close a loan and I'd have to go get another loan, right? And it was all good. I made good money there. But I was also, in the hands of the market.
Well, I like to say that you woke up every morning unemployed.
I did. You know what, ironically enough, too, is this, and it's similar to what's happening right now. It was September of 2007 when I was introduced to network marketing and pyramid business, which is now affiliate marketing and is widely accepted. But I didn't know that the 8 loans that were on my desk were all of a sudden going to get kicked back, and they would say like, Wells isn't doing seconds.
But I just closed the same exact one yesterday. Yeah, we changed that.
No. WAMU's out.
Yep.
GMAC's not doing seconds. Chase isn't doing 90% anymore. All these different guidelines were changing. We didn't know. We know now.
The coffee loan's not there where I could pay $900 for
Oh
$1
my
million
God.
loan.
Dude, right? We were saying they were qualifying people on a 1.25% teaser rate. That was going to be gone in 3 months.
But you know what aggravates me?
On a CISA.
We were smarter than that. Like you watch the movie The Big Short?
100 times.
I mean,
Yeah.
I get aggravated when I watch the movie
Yes.
because we were in the mix of that.
Right.
And we knew that these people we were lending money to, they didn't pay anybody in life before us. So
No.
what made us think that they were going to pay us? But we had this cool chart that you went down and over, credit score minus LTV,
down and over.
8.99, and that's your rate. And you sure? Yeah, 5% down. Yeah, 5%. It was just bizarre. And now you look at it, I guess, time obviously is always your best friend, right? You look back at it and you say, like, how did we not see that these loans were going to default?
Crazy. Well, fortunately for me, a lot of my customers, my clients were cops and firemen. So they all were like basically full doc. They weren't listen, whose fault is it the borrower or the lender or both, right? So everyone's culpable to a degree. If I'm going to go borrow, $400,000 and they say I work at McDonald's as a manager, meanwhile I just got fired last week. There's a problem there, right?
Well, it's like with drugs, right?
Yeah,
I mean, people are hooked on pills all over this island. Is it the drug addict's fault or is it the pharmaceuticals that pump them out?
Right.
Like chickens.
Yeah. Well, they're both one and the same. Those two industries, I tell you that. As far as banking and big pharma, but. So it's, I love the talk of the hustle, right? And so many different things. And I love when, like leads, just like lead generation. People consuming, I know I consume content. If I see something I'm being interested in, I put my name and email in and I want to learn more. And it doesn't mean it has to be my friend that from the firehouse. It doesn't have to, it's again, how do you get out of it? Now it's easier to get out of your comfort zone. Because, like putting out, funnels and leads and things like that, you can acquire leads and make sales without calling up your second cousin and being like, hey, we haven't spoken to you in a long time. I want to get your feedback on what I'm currently. You don't really even have to do that if you put out good content. And how do you put out good content?
Yeah.
How would you tell someone to come up with good content?
Well, listen, there's so many free platforms out there today, whether it's exactly what we're doing right now, where we're speaking into an audio device, but we're also filming it to have the ability to repurpose it in so many different ways. So whatever your message that you want to get out, it's extremely simple. I mean, today we might have, some decent equipment in this room, but anyone with an iPhone, the thing that they're walking around with all day long, the last thing it is a phone. Right? It does everything else but be a phone.
You just had 2 calls that you sent away.
Right.
Why are they calling me?
Well, I know why they're calling me.
Right.
But But back to that, how to create content. Just press record.
Yes.
People have such a hard time pressing record. People have a hard time caring about what people think about them too much. That's the biggest problem.
That's a struggle. I struggle with it.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. I think we all do. I think we get better at it, right? Obviously, by doing stuff like this, I get better at it. But I think that at the end of the day, you're worried about people that A, you either don't know, or B, you really don't like. Right? And that's the strange thing. Like, we buy stuff to impress people that we don't like.
Right.
And I never understood that concept. And I've been guilty of it many times.
Yeah.
I can sit back and I can reflect, and that's what makes us better humans as we grow. But it's those are the paralyzing things that stop people. Everyone everyone in the shower, laying in bed, driving to work has an idea.
Yes.
Everyone has ideas. You know, it's just whether you're able to implement them with action, write them down, create short, middle, medium, and long-term goals, and actually see something through. And that's the problem. I mean, if it was just as easy as coming up with an idea, everybody would be a millionaire. However, there's a flip side to that coin. With all this technology that's out there today, you know, we just talked about StreamYard. Me and you can do exactly what we did right now from the comforts of our own home.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't know the difference. They would hear our voice. It would be a great conversation with two friends at 35 years.
Yeah.
So to me, creating content isn't tough. I think people get paralyzed with perfection. I think that's the biggest issue with people creating content today, that it's paralysis by analysis, right?
100%.
They have to make sure they got the perfect thumbnail and the perfect title and the perfect keywords. No, there's no such thing as perfect.
Right.
That's the thing. Perfect is just a weird word that somebody made up one day that really doesn't mean anything.
That's
because
right.
you know, something is perfect if it's good enough, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It's got to be good enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I actually answered that question, but I think those are the steps that prevent people from creating something, like I said about your dad earlier, right? Dad could come up with an ebook that explains to people how to make a cool pumpkin out of 4 pieces of wood, right? And now he can sell that for $19, and he can sell it to 2,000 people and make himself $40,000 in the comforts of his basement.
Right.
You know, and you want to talk about residual, he only has to write that program once.
It's incredible. And, you know, back to the perfection, too. And
I know I covered a lot of
that's good, because I want to piggyback on that.
So many topics.
No, it's vulnerability, right? People love vulnerability. They don't want to listen to someone who's polished. They you know, I saw a friend of mine recently. He's so excited about this new business, right? And he has never done a Facebook Live, and that was his opening. Listen, I've never done a Facebook Live, and he's doing it, and he's sweating, and he's afraid. And it got a ton of views, and everyone loved it. I loved it. I watched it twice. It was great, you know, because people want to see real people.
I think authenticity is the most important thing in content creation.
100%.
You know, yes, you have to be. I was on a podcast, you know, a couple weeks ago, and they asked me what I thought the most important thing about content creation was, and I feel that being authentic is the most important thing, because I can go on all different types of, you know, who X the Public and all these crazy websites and find out what people are Googling and what people want to know. But if I'm not passionate about that issue and I'm not authentic about it, people are going to see right through me. You know, I've always had a soft sale to me. I was never that, you know, bang the square peg through the round hole type of thing, buy this house right now type of person.
Yeah.
I always tried to educate. You know, you said to me earlier, I want you to repeat those 3 E's, because I think that's a mantra that anyone in business should really absorb and live every single day. So what was it again? It's
entertain, educate, and empower. And, you know, starting everything, every meeting, everything about that, or just your intentions, I think is and this is why the ILT, invest, you learn, you teach, or LATs, learn, apply, and teach. And, you know, for someone who wants to learn how, you know, do something like put out content, right? Because most people are like petrified of, you said, hit record and just do it, just hit live and just do it. What you could do is you can read something that's interesting to you, or speak about something you heard on a podcast. Hey, I just heard on this podcast, this is what they said, and this is what I think about it. And if you do that, you're coming from a point of, it's entertaining, because if you said I've never done a Facebook Live before, you got people's attention. This is my first. So that's attention is the game, right? And so there's that. And then, you know, watching someone that's nervous about something is, when I say entertaining, it's keeping your attention, right? It could be dramatic. It doesn't mean someone has to be juggling, like, you know, whatever the entertainment is. And then when you're educating someone about people, we have this innate thing we want to learn. This is why people get so frustrated in schools. Like, I don't know if I want to learn trigonometry today, or whatever it may be, the you know, borax, whatever it is. You can tell I didn't learn it because I don't even know what the fuck it is. So there's that. And then when people see someone vulnerable do something, or just see what's available to them, they are empowered to say, you know what, I can too. Well, I think that what the world is missing is empathy, right? I think a lot of people have it, and maybe where we grew up,
as kids, it was soft, looked upon as soft, to have empathy, to have consideration, to care about other people. And I think that's where that grab is that you can be empathetic for somebody who is doing something for the first time, understanding their struggles. When people come in here and sit down, as soon as I put the camera in front of their face, they don't want to speak. You know, they can talk to me for 5 hours, but as soon as I hit record, they're a completely different person.
Right.
But also what the beauty of content creation is today, so maybe you don't like what you look like, right? So you can create this audio podcast just like this, and nobody has to see you, right? And you can read, and you can quote things, and you don't necessarily have to be under the gun to perform. Right. And then there's that third step that you can transcribe. Maybe you can take your words and put into writing and create blogs that now you can get out there in a form of content. So that repurposing, to me, is the biggest thing that content creation allows you to do. And that's why I think that just doing one singular part of it isn't the right way to go. I think that you can find your niche. If your face is built for radio, then just stay on a podcast. And if you don't like the way you sound, then write, or have something transcribed. There's AI bots out there today that will transcribe this whole thing for me in 90 seconds, and we can create a blog out of it. So there are so many opportunities when it comes to content creation. But again, it comes down to, being passionate about whatever it is that you're talking about. You don't have to be an expert. I love that word, expert. You have to be passionate about it.
Yeah.
You have to be a student of it. I call myself a student of something. I'm never, an expert of anything. I'm a student of that game.
Everyone that is perceived as an expert will be the first one to say that they're a student, right? And so, back to like the face, even the face for radio. If you look at Buddy Hackett, I don't remember him. He had a face for radio, but everyone would love to look at him, right? Yeah. And so
Don Knotts,
right? A legend, right? You know when he was on the show, he was like our age. He looked like he was 70. So we look around and say,
I thought he was born at 70.
I'm telling you.
But he was a funny bastard.
My God.
I remember a funny story.
Oh my God. Oh man.
John Denasso. You remember John?
Yeah.
We went to Atlantic City. It was like 7, 8 of us. Gerard, Sarah, a bunch of us. And he tells me he gets tickets to this. Oh no, I'm sorry, Don Rickles, not.
Oh my God, even better. Yeah,
Don Rickles, Don Knotts.
He's one of my. But he's one of my favorites, Don Rickles.
So I'm saying to myself, like, this kid's really lost his fucking mind. Like, I'm fucking 22 years old. The last thing I want to go do is watch Don Rickles like that. I'll call my grandmother, grandfather up. They'll be down here in no time.
Legend.
They're gonna go. They're gonna have a great time with you, and you let me know how it worked out for you. Well, let me tell you, I left that show. I had a whole new respect for that guy. When I tell you funny,
legend.
I mean, we were up front. He took us all apart one by one.
Oh, yeah.
One by one. And we consider ourselves funny back then.
Yeah, no, he is.
Not Don Knotts. I remember Don Knotts. He was on like Three's Company, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, Don Rickles.
And Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
Don Rickles, I actually showed my kids Don Rickles. He's like, to me, he's like a mentor of mine, He really is, because he's just and it's funny too, in your rap, so you take that too, right? You take what you love, and that's why we read, that's why we watch movies and things, and you take a little more of the nugget we pick up. We take it, we take it, like all of our quotes we said today, we're saying it, we heard it before, I haven't had an original thought here today, I don't think, but the reality is you take it and you repackage it and deliver it to someone who needs it to hear it that way, right? And so you could take it. This is why, back to authenticity. If you listen, I said this to you before, like the Black Crowes. You know that they were inspired by the Rolling Stones,
yes,
right? And so because you can hear it in their music, but that's not. You're not going to say, "Oh, Black Crowes." Maybe. Well, what made them think that can ever be in the music industry? They're legends. Right. But someone's inspired by someone else.
Always.
Whether it's fighters, this is what makes everyone else better. Every sport, every actor, every profession, everything.
You've never heard an interview with somebody of any caliber, of any entertainment, sports, whatever you want to call it, that told you they didn't look up to somebody when they started.
Leadership, right?
Right.
There's got to be leadership, inspiration. People speak about motivation. I think motivation comes from your own action. And it's like, if you want different results, right? We're a product of what we do. Right? So that's it. You can look at, if I have too many pounds on me, I'm like, I apparently am eating too much. Yeah. So apparently I'm doing something. It's got to be me. I can't go blaming sometimes I blame my wife. You're always cooking these amazing meals. And so it starts with inspiration. and your thoughts. So if you're inspired, you start thinking, and your words change. When your words change, you start taking different actions. Right? That's why they say, faith without when you speak it, the words, you take the action. You take action over and over again, you start getting motivated from your own action. Now you start taking more action, and then you change your habits. So your habits will change your results. Not people think it's in the realm of working harder. It's working a little bit different. It's changing your words, changing your thoughts, your words, and living that inspired life. We are all inspired by someone,
right.
And that's what it has
day.
to be. Every day, it has to be that. And I think that school in corporate America, and the police department and the fire department, and I'll add them too because that's where my background as an employee was.
Your roots, yeah.
Is there wasn't anything. There's fear. Your fear of getting in trouble, fear of failing. When I say fear of failing in school, you're gonna get the red ink. I'm saying the fear of that, the fear of being insubordinate. You got to show up on time, and all these different things. They suck the life out of inspiration, and people need to be inspired. If you the other night I watched a fight. It was Justin Gaethje against this really tough guy. I forgot the guy's name, and he made incredible adjustments in that fight and won the fight. And his talk after was very inspiring. I mean, so many times. It's funny. The older I get, the more emotional I am. I'll hear a post-fight interview and I start crying. And it's that's what makes people want to.
That's empathy.
It's empathy, right? And it's doing the thing. So I mean, living that inspired
life. I think
life.
it's who you surround yourself with, right? I think that's a big part of it. Like if you don't like where you are, move. Right, and I don't mean move from your house and move. Like if you're not comfortable in your surroundings, change your surroundings. Right? If you're Les Brown said, you can't fly like an eagle hanging around with pigeons.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that there's a lot of things that you just said makes a lot of sense to me and they hit home. But I also think it's by me being able to be around people like yourself and the other, business partners that I have that have taught me over the last couple of years of changing my mentality and changing, the limited beliefs that we have sometimes. I think that's a big part of it as well.
I've heard it, when you can't change your friends, you're going to have to change your friends. And so, you can't change who they are, you got to change who you're hanging with, Right. Kiyosaki always says, if you want to be a mechanic, hang out with mechanics. I want to be a golfer, hang out with golfers. And
no change. No change,
right? And to years, it's like, wow, all my friends are drunks. They're all drinking. Oh, wait, so am I. Yeah. And so it's like, what do I...
But I don't drink as much as them.
No, right. Or I can handle it better, even though I was just streaking down the boardwalk yesterday. And so it's that, and it's like, and it's funny, and you still see it. It doesn't make them bad people. I have old friends of mine, miserable, great people, miserable, especially a lot of cops, friends of mine. Firemen, I just saw some miserable friends at the medical that I just was at. Some friends and good guys, good girls, but they're miserable. I can only limit my time of those people. Even if they could be your parents, you've got to. This is why like you said, like an eagle, you got to soar. It's time for you to do what you want to do in life, and living that life of hope. And I think without hope of creating a better life, too many people murmur words about themselves. I'm too old. Best days are behind me. I can never do that. I hear it all the time. When you raise your level of consciousness to watch what you say, you notice what people say.
Absolutely.
They're de-edifying themselves all day long. I'm fat. I'm this. I'm that. I can't. I'm this. And I mean, I have to limit my time to even listening to that.
Negativity breeds. You can't. I know how I am personally. That I have to be around inspiring people. If I don't, I find myself slipping. That's where I try to navigate or migrate towards books or self-development, because I believe that's what, you don't always have a mentor that you can, call up right there and on the spot. But, if you can align yourself with a couple of good people, listen, your father told you when you were a kid, you can count your friends on one hand. You laughed at him and said, I have 50 friends.
Right.
I can, call any one of them. They'll come pick me up right now. And you look back today, there's a saying that you never realized your father was right until you have a son who thinks that you're wrong.
Oh, that's good. It's so true, too. Oh,
right?
my God.
So, I mean, that's...
My dad said you're going to have to shed some people. You'll be shedding them.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, and it's warranted. Quite honestly, And getting back to that, I have friends too that are in the same exact spot as they were 30 years ago, and it doesn't make them bad people.
Great.
They're comfortable in that situation. I'm just not comfortable continuing to go down that path with them when I see it's either self-destructive for them or, more importantly, self-destructive for me, because I always felt like if I'm not growing, I'm dying.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just me trying to constantly, find different outlets to learn. That's which I did tremendously today, man. I can't forget about being able to see you after so long. I didn't realize it's been 7 years. It feels like it's been 70, even though we see each other and we talk on, social media all the time. Yeah. I thought you were out of here a lot longer than that. You seem like you have, because I think it's really comes down to the work that you've put in, not here, that I've seen, to probably make me believe that you've been out there a lot longer, because you're definitely a true testament to an entrepreneur. I hate using the word serial entrepreneur, but there aren't many guys like you out there that care to give back and care to make people's lives different. And it's been a pleasure, and obviously a pleasure seeing you as well.
Thank you, my brother. Since I know you as kids, you always. I just remember you always laughing, always smiling, always great athlete, always real tough, hardcore tough guy, but a good guy, great athlete. Truly, I really appreciate seeing your wife before too. I look at your son, I see your kids, beautiful kids. I see your son, I see you. I said, I know you from the 70s.
Yeah.
And
not too many people could say that about him today.
And your sister, she's just a beautiful person inside and out, really. So I appreciate you. Now, I have limited time up here in New York.
Yep.
And I said, I want to make sure I come see you.
I'm glad that I was able to, spend a couple of those moments with you. Real fast before you leave, where can I find you? Where can people find you looking at, the different opportunities that you have going on right now? Different platforms that you might be on. I appreciate you asking. I mean, look, right now, I'm active on Facebook. I have a TikTok channel. I have an Instagram thing. But, I'm growing as well, too, I have a couple private Facebook groups that I'm building businesses in. Different business models, and everything's rocking right now. I mean, right now we're at a time when people are looking for some positive change. It's going well. It's going good. So you can just find me on Facebook, Vin Lamantia on Facebook. Vin Lamantia. All right, I'll make sure I have that in the notes. I appreciate you, man. And anybody that gets to see him, you're gonna see he's a breath of fresh air. He's real as it comes. The fact I always say that he doesn't have 300,000 followers is beyond me, because anyone that listens to him will know that everything he says is from the heart. Nothing is staged. That's just the way he is. He's a funny bastard. He's always been a funny bastard. So definitely check him out. I know he had Vincent or
the Vin Lamant rant.
The Vin Lamant rant.
Yeah, that's what I'm still
alive? Yeah, it's alive.
That's one of my Facebook pages, and the Vin Lamant rant, because I can't hold together. My mother, one last thing, she says, Vin, honey, I love you, but you got to make your video shorter and stay on topic. No, that's why we're too many topics. Perfect. This is why I brought you on. Yeah, my brother. No such thing as staying on topic in this room, that's for sure. But again, appreciate you being here. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you everybody for listening, and hope to see you real soon.